So the river was too deep to wade, and it was March, or yeah, I guess 1st of March, latter part of February, and it was real cold. So I had to walk all the way down to the bridge, about a quarter of a mile or so down the road, cross the bridge and come up the creek on the other side to get the pheasant. Picked up a pheasant on the way, scared up some ducks off the river, and a covey of quail. So there was a lot of game out that afternoon, and so that was a unique thing, kind of, to be able to kill a ringneck pheasant in this part of the country. It was probably a bird that someone had been raising ringneck pheasants, and it had escaped the reason that it was out there. But anyway, that's my only mounted ringneck pheasant. And this turkey is turkey that I killed in Ashe County about 1993. It's kind of a unique bird in the sense that the spurs, I don't know if you can get them on your camera or not, turn the bird a little bit your way, but the spurs are extremely long and real sharp on the end, and that's it's hard to find older birds that have these real long spurs like that, and so that's the reason I had him mounted. And a friend of mine and myself were hunting over in Ashe County, and this bird had 3 hens with him at the time that I was able to call him in and kill him. So he's my very best bird that I've ever killed is in the wild turkey world. And this deer is a deer that I killed again in Grayson County, Virginia. He's a real nice 8-pointer. He weighed 225 pounds, and kind of a unique story with him. He was a friend of mine and myself were hunting, and it was raining, and so it was on a Saturday morning. So I was hunting up above my friend. I went back down by his stand and told him I was going to go to town and go to breakfast because it was raining so bad. And so we were coming down the road to leave, and got to an area that we could look off to our right and see a pasture that was on the property that we had leased. And this buck and a doe was down there, and they were kind of, at the time, they were coming in the direction of the road that we were going down. So my friend said just to let him out there at the road, and because the deer might come up the hill to him. And so he got out there, and I went on down and circled and went up the main dirt road there. And by the time I got down to where I could see where the buck had been, he had already gone back up the bottom about 200 yards, and I drove on up, and there was a big barn there, and I parked behind the barn and slipped around the edge of the barn and saw him across the creek, and he turned and started running back down the bottom the way he had just come up. And again, I was hunting with my muzzleloader, and I shot him at about 100 yards in a dead run and dropped him. So I was real lucky to get this deer, but this was the heaviest deer I've ever killed, weighing 225 pounds. We had scales there that our farmer used. He was in the cattle business, and he had some official weighing scales at his barn, and that's where we weighed the deer. But then this bird here on the mountain is another ruffed grouse. And this is the very first bird or first animal of any kind that I ever did the taxidermy work on. So I mounted this bird back in the early 80s and mid 80s maybe, but mounted him, and he's a friend of mine. I was director of our extended day program for the Wilson County Schools. And I was working down at East High one night because our program operated from 4 in the afternoon until 8 at night. And there was a guy that was teaching a taxidermy class in our community school program. So I went over to see what they were doing, and a friend of mine wanted a grouse to mount. So later I killed one and gave it to him, and he mounted it. And so I asked him if he would help me and show me how to mount a bird. So I got this one, and he showed me how to skin it out and how to mount it, and helped me some with it. So that was the first thing I ever did taxidermy-wise. But then this coyote here sitting in the floor, he's one that I killed in Galax, Virginia in the fall of 2008. And he's, we were driving through a cattle farm that we had permission to hunt, and we went in just after daylight because we had a long road to drive down to get down to the woods to where we wanted to hunt. And this coyote ran out from our right to our left and dropped over a knoll. And so my friend, we were in his vehicle, he speeded up his vehicle, and when we got over the knoll, I had my gun out ready to shoot, and the coyote was running real fast down the hill, but he turned sharply to his right, and when he did, I whistled at him and he stopped. And when he did, I shot him with actually my granddaughter's rifle, a little Remington 243 at 210 yards. That was my first coyote kill. And so I had him full body mounted. And this next animal, and the last one, believe it or not, is a bobcat that I killed just 5 miles up Highway 16, where I was talking about the ringneck pheasant a while ago. I killed this bobcat up on the farm that is the home place of my mother-in-law, Mary Kate Reeves. And so I naturally had to have him full body mounted because most of the bobcats are up in higher elevations, usually in the mountains more. And I was surprised to see him down coming up the edge of the cornfield. And there were 2 deer out in the, 3 deer actually out in the cornfield. There was a doe and 2 yearlings, and they were getting alerted to something, and I noticed, and I looked, and I saw him slipping up the edge of the cornfield, and he would walk a little ways, and then he would sit down, and then he'd walk a little further and sit down, and I guess he thought he was going to catch him a deer, but the deer were already alerted to him, so he sneaked up one time and sat down. When he did, I shot him, and was real pleased to get a bobcat. That's something that you don't see very many times in hunting. In a lifetime of hunting, I've saw maybe 5 or 6 bobcats that during the time that I was hunting. I've seen them at night, you know, across the road and things, but not when I was hunting. So he was kind of a unique trophy to be able to get me a bobcat, and especially to kill it on my mother-in-law's home place, made it particularly special. So that's about it for the game in this room. One thing we didn't mention, and I might mention, but we'll have to turn the camera completely around to get to this. But I didn't mention this this hawk. This hawk is a bird that my father killed years ago. Of course, they're totally illegal now to take a hawk of any type. And it would be quite a heavy fine to be caught with a hawk that you had killed. But when my father killed this, the laws didn't exist about that. And so it was not illegal at the time. And I'm able to keep it because it was killed back before the laws came into effect on it, but that's something that's special to me because it was killed by my father.
Okay. Okay.
This lamp is a lamp that I bought. It's a replica of elk antlers, and This lamp I bought at one of our National Wild Turkey Federation banquets, our fundraising banquets that we have each February here at the VFW Hall. And the table, the turkeys and elk mount and the table has moose replicas of moose antlers. And that was also, all that was part of our fundraising banquet items that we auction off at our fundraising banquets for the National Wild Turkey Federation.
This one over here.
That lamp, my prints, had to have something to do with the Cowboys in my game room, so I got the John Wayne print, was bought from a furniture store in Independence, Virginia. And I had to have something about the Cowboys because when I grew up, that was my heroes, was the Cowboys, because at the time I stayed here with my grandfather up in his house, and that's right here on the place that my new house is built. This is property that he owned, and I stayed with him all week, every week, and worked with him on the farm. He had a 200-acre farm up in Parsonsville. And on Saturday evening, I would take a bath in a No. 3 washing tub in this old smokehouse and walk out to Knowles Creek and catch the Wilkes transportation bus to North Wilkesboro. And I would go to the Liberty Theater to the cowboy movies and stay in there all evening until about 5:30 when my father would get off from work. And my father and mother, we lived over in Forest Hills. And I would go home with them on Saturday night to Forest Hills and spend the night, and then on Sunday morning we'd all get up and get ready and come back and go to New Hope Baptist Church in Peleer. That was my grandfather and grandmother's church and my mother's and father's, so that's where we would go to church on Sunday, and then my grandmother would fix Sunday lunch for her entire family every Sunday here at my grandfather's house on this property. And my mother had 6 brothers, and of course I'm an only child, so I look forward to every Sunday because all my cousins would come in and we would get out in this field that right here where my house is built, and we'd play ball and have the best time every Sunday evening. Then I would stay from Sunday afternoon until the next Saturday evening with my grandfather and grandmother.